Remember the laughter of watching the Beverly Hillbillies with your family? The Clampetts brought chaos and charm to Beverly Hills, turning high society upside down with their country ways. But behind the smiles and slapstick was a hidden world of heartbreak, tragic deaths, secret struggles, and scandals that shook Hollywood. Today we uncover the real stories behind the stars and honor the legacies they left behind. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's begin. Sharon Tate as Janet Trago and Mary. Sharon Marie Tate was born on January 24, 1943. When she was 20 years old, she appeared in the popular sitcom The Beverly Hillbillies as Janet Trago, a charming and graceful secretary, a role that reflected her real-life sweetness. Though a supporting part, Sharon stood out thanks to her radiant eyes and natural screen presence. Her rise to fame came quickly. She appeared in films like Eye of the Devil and earned a Golden Globe nomination for her role as Jennifer North in Valley of the Dolls. 1967. Sharon wasn't just a screen beauty. She was a dedicated actress, even training in martial arts with Bruce Lee for action roles. In 1968, she married famed director Roman Polanski in what seemed like a fairy tale romance. The couple moved into a luxurious home in Benedict Canyon, and in 1969, she became pregnant with their first child, a baby boy eagerly awaited. But just days before her due date, Hollywood was shaken by an unspeakable tragedy. On the night of August 8th to the early morning of August 9th, 1969, Sharon Tate, then 26 years old and more than 8 months pregnant, was brutally murdered by members of the Charles Manson cult. She was stabbed 16 times while begging for the life of her unborn child. Her body, along with those of 4 friends, was discovered in a blood-soaked scene that horrified the nation. Sharon Tate died just as her career was beginning to bloom, leaving behind an unborn child and a future stolen by violence. She was buried at Holy Cross Cemetery in Culver City, California, in the same grave as her baby. At the time of her death, her net worth was around $45,000, a tragic reminder of a brilliant life cut short. Donna Douglas as Ellie Mae Clampett. Donna Douglas, born Doris Ione Smith on September 26, 1932, in Pride, Louisiana, became a beloved national star when she was 30 years old, thanks to her role as Ellie Mae Clampett in the Beverly Hillbillies 1962 to 1971. Ellie Mae, the innocent blonde girl with a love for animals, became an icon of Southern femininity, adored for her honesty, simplicity, and effortless charm. But fame came with a heavy price. After the show ended, Douglas found herself trapped in the image of Ellie Mae. The role was so iconic that it made it nearly impossible for her to be seen as anyone else. Directors dismissed her as a country doll, and her acting career steadily declined. Even starring alongside Elvis Presley in Frankie and Johnny 1966 wasn't enough to shake the Hillbillies' shadow. Her personal life was just as turbulent. Douglas went through 2 failed marriages. The first ended the same year she gave birth to her only child, leaving her a single mother. The second ended in divorce from Robert Leeds, the very director of the series that made her famous. At one point, she faced financial hardship, lost her home, and survived by performing inspirational songs and giving motivational talks at churches. Through these struggles, Douglas turned to faith. She became a certified minister, performed gospel music, and traveled across churches and schools to inspire young people. She also became a children's author with biblical themes and published a cookbook titled Southern Favorites, with a taste of Hollywood, featuring recipes from classic stars. Donna Douglas passed away on January 1, 2015 in Louisiana from pancreatic cancer when she was 82 years old. She was buried at Bluff Creek Cemetery near her birthplace. At the time of her death, her net worth was estimated at around $1 million. A modest figure for a TV legend, but one that reflects a life of resilience and transformation. Buddy Ebson as Jed Clampett. Buddy Ebson, born Christian Ludolph Ebson Jr., on April 2, 1908 in Belleville, Illinois, became a television icon when he was 54 years old by playing Jed Clampett in the Beverly Hillbillies 1962 to 1971. He portrayed a kind, humble man who suddenly became rich after discovering oil on his land and moved his entire rural family to live among the elite of Beverly Hills. But before this breakthrough, Ebson's career nearly ended in tragedy on the set of The Wizard of Oz, 1939. Originally cast as the Tin Man, he had to wear makeup made with aluminum dust, which severely damaged his lungs and left him hospitalized with intense breathing difficulties. MGM replaced him with Jack Haley without explanation. The incident caused lifelong respiratory problems and pushed Ebson into minor roles for years. His personal life was full of turbulence. He went through 2 failed marriages, had 7 children, and battled alcoholism and a short temper, traits that caused many colleagues to avoid working with him. A staunch conservative, he publicly turned against his co-star Nancy Culp when she ran for Congress in 1984, recording a campaign ad opposing her and calling her too liberal, which destroyed their long-standing friendship. Despite setbacks, his success didn't end with the Beverly Hillbillies. In the 1970s, he found new fame playing the clever milk-drinking detective Barnaby Jones, a role that lasted until 1980. Beyond acting, Ebson was a folk artist, author, wealthy coin collector with coins worth hundreds of thousands, and founder of the Beverly Hills Coin Club. He died on July 6, 2003 from respiratory failure in California when he was 95 years old. He was buried at Pacific Crest Cemetery in Rundo Beach. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $3 million, modest compared to the scale of his long and storied career. Irene Ryan as Daisy Moses. Irene Ryan, born Irene Noble on October 17, 1902, in El Paso, Texas, became a household name when she was 60 years old for playing Daisy Mae Granny Moses in the Beverly Hillbillies 1962 to 1971. As Jed Clampett's feisty mother-in-law, her sharp tongue and sudden outbursts became iconic comedy moments for millions of viewers. But behind the laughter was a much lonelier reality. Ryan married twice, had no children, and both marriages ended in separation. Though beloved as Granny, she was known for her workaholic lifestyle and sacrificed her personal happiness for her career. She often avoided close relationships and lived much of her life alone. A cruel tragedy struck in 1973 while she was performing on Broadway in the musical Pippin. After singing No Time at All, she collapsed backstage. Doctors diagnosed her with glioblasto, a form of brain cancer that couldn't be operated on. Despite the pain, she refused to leave the stage until her body simply couldn't go on. On April 26, 1973, Irene Ryan passed away in Santa Monica when she was 70 years old. The cause of death was brain cancer combined with arteriosclerotic heart disease. She was buried in a modest tomb next to her late sister at Woodland Memorial Cemetery. Her net worth at the time was estimated at $2 million, mostly earned from her TV success and performances in Las Vegas. Raymond Bailey as Milburn Drysdale. Raymond Thomas Bailey was born on May 6, 1904 in San Francisco, California. When he was 58 years old, he rose to television fame by playing Milburn Dale, the cunning and greedy banker in the Beverly Hillbillies, 1962 to 1971. His character's desperate attempts to keep the Clampett's oil fortune in his bank added a layer of satire to the show, mocking greed and vanity in high society. But Bailey's real life was far darker than the comedy he portrayed. Before finding success, he worked a string of manual labor jobs, including on a pineapple plantation in Hawaii and as a merchant seaman. He wandered through China, Japan, and the Mediterranean before finally returning to Hollywood in 1938, already in his 30s, to land his first roles after many failed attempts. Behind the scenes, Bailey quietly battled substance abuse. His struggles made him temperamental and difficult to work with. In the final seasons of the Beverly Hillbillies, he began showing signs of Alzheimer's disease. Memory loss and confusion forced him into permanent retirement in 1975. In his later years, Bailey lived in solitude between a small apartment and a boat in Laguna Niguel. He remained in touch only with co-star Nancy Culp, affectionately calling her Slim. He withdrew from the public eye and the entertainment world entirely. Raymond Bailey passed away from a heart attack on April 15, 1980, when he was 75 years old. His ashes were scattered off the coast of California. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $1 million, a quiet end for a man once known across America. Bea Beaumont, as Cousin Pearl Bodine. Bea Beaumont was born on April 4, 1906 in New York. When she was 56 years old, she charmed television audiences as Cousin Pearl Bodine in the Beverly Hillbillies 1962. As a sweet, dreamy, small-town widow, Pearl brought a warm, earthy humor to the Clampetts' new life in Beverly Hills. But Beaumont's real life was far from the laughter she delivered on screen. She married actor Jim Bannon in 1938, and they had 2 children, including Jack Bannon, who would also become an actor. However, Jim's constant absence due to touring took a toll, and Bea, left to manage the household and her growing career, filed for divorce in 1950, ending their love story in heartbreak. 8 years later, she remarried sound technician Eugene Twambly, whom she called her soulmate. Their life together was quiet and loving, a rare peace in an otherwise pressured and illness-filled existence. A heavy smoker for decades, Beaumont was diagnosed with lung cancer in 1967. Despite radiation treatment at Stanford Medical Center, the disease continued to spread. While filming Petticoat Junction, she kept her illness secret, pushing herself to work until her health failed completely. Her final episodes as kind-hearted innkeeper Kate Bradley were voiced off camera as she was too ill to appear. Bea Beaumont passed away on October 13, 1968, at Good Samaritan Hospital in Los Angeles from lung cancer and pneumonia when she was 62 years old. Just 4 days later, her husband Eugene died of a heart attack, almost as if he couldn't live without the woman he called the light of my life. They were buried side by side at Valhalla Memorial Park. Her net worth at the time was about $1.5 million, modest compared to the enormous legacy she left behind. Charles Lane as Foster Finney and Billy Hacker. Charles Lane, born Charles Gerselson on January 26, 1905 in San Francisco, was 58 years old when he appeared in the Beverly Hillbillies in 1963, playing Foster Finney, one of his many roles as a stern, uptight authority figure. With his sharp features, scrutinizing gaze, and dry tone, Lane was rarely the star but always unforgettable. He acted in over 250 films and hundreds of TV shows, often cast as unpleasant bureaucrats, grumpy judges, cold doctors, or rigid executives. Though typecast, he earned widespread respect in Hollywood for his professionalism and tireless work ethic, sometimes filming 3 roles in a single day, changing costumes and rushing between sets for just a few lines. "I always played the sobs," he once said. "But that's what people remember me for." Indeed, those irritable side characters became his trademark. Lane also had one of Hollywood's rare, long-lasting marriages. He wed Ruth Cavill in 1931, and they remained together for more than 70 years until her death in 2002. They had 2 children and lived modestly, choosing a Brentwood home they bought in 1964 for just $46,000 rather than a flashy mansion. His most astonishing legacy was his longevity. At 101, Lane still appeared on camera. At 102, he remained alert, followed the news, and even joked about being ready for new roles during a 2005 TV Land Awards appearance. But on July 9, 2007, his son found him lying peacefully in bed, his eyes open for a final moment, before he gently passed away. Charles Lane died at the age of 102. His estimated net worth was $2 million. Nancy Culp as Jane Hathaway. Nancy Jane Culp was born on August 28, 1921, in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. When she was 41 years old, she landed the defining role of her career, Miss Jane Hathaway, the sharp, loyal, and witty secretary to Mr. Dale in the Beverly Hillbillies 1962 to 1971. Her character became a symbol of smart, independent women in a male-dominated comedic world. Culp endured a lifetime of personal battles and silent pain. Though she earned an Emmy nomination, Hollywood began to sideline her amid growing rumors about her sexuality, a taboo at the time. She never publicly came out, but in a courageous interview with LGBT author Bose Hadley, she hinted at the truth with quiet dignity. I'm the other kind. I find that birds of a feather flock together. Culp's career was boxed in, and she received few leading roles after the Beverly Hillbillies ended. With acting opportunities fading, she boldly ran for a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives in 1984. But disaster struck when co-star Buddy Ebson, who had played Jed Clampett, recorded a political ad attacking her as too liberal, severely damaging her reputation and campaign. Though Ebson later expressed regret, their friendship never fully recovered. Afterward, Culp returned to teaching at Juniata College, focusing on theater and living quietly in Palm Springs. She supported charities and embraced the calm, though financial instability and professional isolation cast long shadows over her final years. In 1990, Culp was diagnosed with cancer. Despite undergoing chemotherapy, the illness had spread too far. She died on February 3, 1991, at the age of 69 in Palm Desert, California. She was buried at Westminster Presbyterian Cemetery in her native Pennsylvania. Her net worth at the time was approximately $500,000, a humble reflection of a once celebrated actress pushed aside for simply being different. Harriet E. McGibbon as Margaret Dale. Harriet Elizabeth McGibbon was born on October 5, 1905. She rose to fame when she was 57 years old by playing Margaret Dale in the Beverly Hillbillies 1962. With her sharp, aristocratic voice and elegant air, she portrayed a wealthy Boston socialite obsessed with class and appalled by the backwoods Clampetts, an iconic role that made her a standout comedic figure of the 1960s. Behind the screen, however, McGibbon's life was marked by quiet loneliness, depression, and personal tragedy. She married twice. Her first marriage to producer William Reno Cain ended after more than a decade, leaving her with a son, William McGibbon Cain, born in 1933. But in 1977, her son passed away 10 years before her own death, leaving her emotionally devastated in silence. Her second marriage to writer Charles Corwin White lasted until his death on Christmas Day in 1967. After that, McGibbon lived a quiet and solitary life. She was often described as moody and strict on set. While some colleagues appreciated her professionalism, others kept their distance due to her aloof demeanor. Despite personal hardship, she had a respectable career. She made her Broadway debut in 1925 with Beggar on Horseback, and later starred in the Pulitzer Prize-winning play, You Can't Take It With You. On television, she appeared in hits like Bewitched My Three Sons and the Vincente Minnelli film Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. In her later years, McGibbon lived in seclusion in Los Angeles. After losing both her husband and son, she withdrew completely from the public and the entertainment industry. She died of natural causes on February 8, 1987, when she was 81 years old. Her body was cremated and her ashes laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills. Her estimated net worth at the time was about $1 million, a reflection of a stable career from Broadway to primetime. Phil Silvers as Shifty Schaefer. Phil Silvers was born on May 11, 1911. When he appeared on the Beverly Hillbillies in 1969 at 58 years old, he played Shifty Schaefer, a slick, humorous con man whose fast-talking charm fit Silvers like a glove. But behind Shifty's laughs was a man whose life bore deep cracks. A comedy genius, silently battling his own demons. Silvers began performing at just 11 years old, singing at theaters whenever the projector broke, a common occurrence back then. With quick wit and natural flair, he soon entered vaudeville, conquered Broadway, with Top Banana winning a Tony, and found TV immortality as Sergeant Bilko in The Phil Silvers Show, a role that earned him 2 Emmys and a devoted 1950s audience. But beneath the laughs, he wrestled with a lifelong gambling addiction. He once lost all his money and credit during a single night at Calva Lodge and had to take a taxi back to Reno, muttering, "I couldn't even leave a tip. I gave it all to the casino." Depression also haunted him. In 1962, while touring in Spain, he suffered a nervous breakdown. Despite making millions laugh, he often felt isolated when the spotlight faded. Silvers went through 2 divorces. First, with Miss America, Jo Carol Dennison, then with Evelyn Patrick, who gave birth to his 5 daughters, including actress Kathy Silvers. His career persisted even as his health declined. In 1972, while performing in A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, he suffered a stroke that left him with slurred speech. Still, he continued acting on screen and TV into the early 1980s. On November 1, 1985, Phil Silvers died in his sleep in Century City, California, when he was 74 years old. The cause was a heart attack. He was buried at Mount Si Memorial Park in Los Angeles. His net worth at the time was around $1 million, a modest sum for a man whose laughter once filled millions of living rooms. Kathleen Freeman as Flo Schaefer and Agnes. Kathleen Freeman was born on February 17, 1923 in Chicago. When she appeared in the Beverly Hillbillies in 1963 at 40 years old, she played two quirky supporting roles, Flo Schaefer and Agnes. Though her screen time was brief, Freeman's signature comedic style stole scenes with just a glance or a single dry line. She began performing at the age of 2, dancing in her parents' vaudeville acts after World War I. Despite being born into show business, her path was far from smooth. She studied music at UCLA, originally intending to become a classical pianist until she unexpectedly found herself in a play and discovered her gift for making people laugh. Over more than 50 years in entertainment, Freeman appeared in over 100 films and countless television shows. She was a regular in Jerry Lewis's comedies during the 1950s and 60s, including The Nutty Professor and The Disorderly Orderly. In the 1980s, she made a lasting impression as the terrifying nun's Sister Mary Stigmata in The Blues Brothers, a role that intimidated even the film's fictional gangsters. She also appeared in Hocus Pocus Gremlins 2, Naked Gun 33 and a Third, and voiced a character in Shrek, her final film role before her passing. Offstage, Freeman lived a quiet, solitary life. She never married and had no children. Her longtime companion was Helen Ramsey, often referred to by the media as her close friend. Though she was nominated for a Tony Award in 2000 for her role as Jeanette Burmeister in The Full Monty on Broadway, Freeman often felt underappreciated, haunted by the sense that she had never truly broken through as a star. In August 2001, just 5 days after her final Broadway performance, Kathleen Freeman died of lung cancer at Lenox Hill Hospital in New York. She was 78 years old. Her ashes were interred at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. At the time of her death, her net worth was estimated at $1 million, a modest figure for someone who gave so much to her craft. Roy Roberts as John Cushing and Judge. Roy Roberts, born Roy Barnes Jones on March 19, 1906 in Tampa, Florida, joined the Beverly Hillbillies in 1963 when he was 57 years old, playing John Cushing and a stern-faced judge. His commanding presence and deep voice made him perfect for the non-nonsense authority figures he so often portrayed, bank managers, generals, or powerful executives on nearly every major TV show of the 1950s and 60s. With a career spanning over 40 years and more than 900 roles, Roberts became a fixture of American television. He appeared in Nightmare Alley, House of Wax, and even Chinatown, but rarely made it into the ranks of true stardom. He was constantly cast in supporting roles, though viewers knew his face from Bewitched, Petticoat Junction, Bonanza McHale's Navy, and dozens of other series. Privately, Roberts's life was far less polished. Rumors circulated about his struggles with alcohol and stimulants, which reportedly affected his mental health and working relationships. His multiple failed marriages, alleged affairs, and reputation for being difficult made directors wary of casting him in his later years. Roles became scarcer, and some of his scenes were even cut from final versions of films, such as It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. On May 28, 1975, Roy Roberts died of a heart attack at St. Vincent Hospital in Los Angeles when he was 69 years old. His ashes were interred at Greenwood Memorial Park in Fort Worth, Texas. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at $1 million, mostly built from decades of work in supporting roles. The stars of the Beverly Hillbillies left behind unforgettable memories, but their real-life stories remind us that behind the laughter were deeply human struggles. Which character from the show do you remember most fondly? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to discover more moving behind-the-scenes stories. In the scene.